Hello, and welcome to a bonus episode for Growing Together podcast. We thought we would just do a quick little bonus episode on our goal setting and review process that we sat down and did on New Year's Day. Just because I think as a couple, it's so important to be clear about the goals you have on an individual basis, but also the goals that you have as a couple. I think a lot of couples lack communicating with each other what their goals are and what they hope to achieve together as a couple. And that just leads to disappointment, resentment,
and no achievements of goals.
Yeah. And I mean, if you don't communicate what you want and expect for your life and as a couple for your life, how can you be irritated or upset with your partner because they have no idea what it is Correct. That you're hoping to achieve?
Correct.
So we're just going to take you quickly through the process that we went through on the 31st of December 2021. So if you guys can get a pen and paper, if you want to do this activity, you can do it by yourself as well. Obviously, it was mostly an individual exercise, but it was awesome to do it together. Then you can take down the questions and do this at a later stage, and then also do it with your partner and see how you can create communal goals.
Correct. Because sometimes you don't really know what your partner's goals are. And speaking from a male's perspective, a lot of the times it's hard to read. For me specifically, it's hard to share your goals with your partner because you might think that they're stupid. Well, me personally, you might think, oh, these goals are unattainable, they're stupid. But once you speak about them, that only helps you help your partner to achieve those goals.
Yeah, I think it's such a key to being able to support your partner fully in what they are aiming to achieve. And that's why I think communicating it with each other is so important, because then you know your partner is striving to achieve A, B, and C. So when they have days where they're feeling bad, you can give them a little bit of support and motivation, or when they need help, you can actually assist them because you know exactly what it is that they're trying to achieve.
Correct. Perfect.
And I think also what we found from this activity, and that's why we wanted to share it here on the podcast, was that in doing this together, we have now got so many goals together as a couple that we didn't even think we had initially. And it was just by realizing where we had similar goals, similar desires, similar like anything. And that's created some beautiful couple goals that we now have that we can work towards for the next week, next month, next year, next eternity.
Perfect.
Cool. So, I mean, obviously, I think the best way to start with any goal setting activity is to actually review the past month, the past year. So we started off with review questions, and they were quite profound questions. Also, it's so important to do this and write it down.
Yes.
Because you can think about it in your head as much as you want, but until you actually write it down, it's just like mumble jumble. Correct. And there's no clear vision, clear idea of what it is exactly that you want to achieve.
And also, if you write it down, it almost becomes like a contract to yourself. And I mean, if you take out a cell phone contract and you don't pay, you think you can get out. No. Yes. So if you make a promise and a commitment to your goals, there's a much better chance of you achieving them or reaching partial of them if you actually write them down.
Exactly. And I think also by writing them down, you can go back and review because it's all there written correct. Down. You can't be like, oh, what was it that I was actually wanting to achieve in this category? So important to write it down just so that you can get clarity and also go back to it if you need to reassess, readjust.
That's right.
Or completely change your mind. So the first question was, what did 2021 teach me about myself? This is quite an interesting one.
Because 2021 was a challenging year for everybody with what's going on in the world at the moment, uncertainty with work, and you're not sure if these goals are even attainable at the moment. So it was quite a good question in terms of how we saw last year, what we learned from it, and how we can implement that into the new year.
Yeah. And as we go through these questions, also think about how interesting it would be to hear what your partner's answers would be to these questions. That's why I think it was so enlightening for us, because you learn so much about your partner by learning about what they learned, the mistakes they made, the things they want to do going forward. So yeah, I think this is a beautiful couples activity. Okay, question number 2 was, who showed up for me and how can I nurture those relationships?
That was a good one as well, because if you actually just write down quickly, what comes to your head, who the real people that impacted you. For me, it was clear. It was literally like boom, 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 done. I was like, okay, that was easy. Whereas some questions you're like, I have to really think about this in terms of my goals. But for this particular question, because I was on such a journey last year to to better myself personally, the people that came up in my life were immediate, and I could write down exactly how they implemented my life, and how I can obviously nurture that relationship.
Yeah, and I think it also just clarifies like who the people are in your life that you value so much and that you should actually make more of an effort with, because if they've showed up for you consistently enough to pop into your mind when you write down your answers to this question, then it's so worth nurturing that relationship. Because
and also we weren't obviously writing across from each other, so I didn't see what you were writing. And the first person you wrote down is the first person I wrote down.
Yeah,
and it was each other.
Yeah.
And that was without even like
yeah, it was incredible. Okay, question number 3 was, what do I need to accept about myself and the other people in my life? I think this is such a deep one, because especially if you have been taking like a spiritual journey or a self-development journey, the number one thing, and it's the hardest thing to do, is start realizing your weaknesses, your faults, because your ego is always going to try to defend yourself and justify why you do certain things. But it's only when you accept and start to change your weaknesses that real change starts to come about.
When you accept them, they hold no power over you anymore. So those weaknesses that you're like, oh my word, I'm stupid, or I'm too weak, or I'm too whatever your weakness is, the moment you accept that is a weakness, it holds no more power over you, because then you can work towards.
Yes, definitely. I love that. It's so true. Like if someone keeps teasing you that you are so stubborn, if you've accepted it about yourself that you're stubborn, you can't really take it personally. So it really takes away people's power over you.
Yes, correct.
And the things that create a reaction in your life. Love that. Okay, how did I cope with uncomfortable things? This was a really cool one. I think humans inevitably avoid change and things that make them feel uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's going to create the biggest change and transformation in your life personally and in your life all around.
Yeah, and getting uncomfortable for me last year was one of the main things that I was focusing on. Well, not even knowingly, but I put myself into positions where I wouldn't genuinely be. And this year is going to be my year to be very uncomfortable, because I saw such growth in that uncomfort, and especially in the relationship where we speak about, like Rox says to me, let's do this whole sex thing. I'm like, great, let's do this. Get on the bed, chair there. She's like, no, we're going to sit and stare at each other and talk about our feelings. I'm like, what are you doing? What do you mean? And I was like, that is very uncomfortable for me. But once I started doing it, it was still uncomfortable. But towards the end, I was like, wow, this is actually amazing to share your emotions and to get uncomfortable. It was really inspirational.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like the one thing I wrote down under this question, how did I cope with uncomfortable things, was by recognizing that any change is uncomfortable, but it brings about the biggest growth and transformation. And I think you and me both put ourselves out of our comfort zone so much last year, and we have grown more in this past year than I think I have in my entire life, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
And definitely. I've seen the same with you. So if anything you can take from this question is, if your answers are not positive, then, and you haven't put yourself in uncomfortable situations or set yourself uncomfortable, challenging goals, then maybe that's something you can start to do this year, because it really just makes you stronger, more resilient, and brings about the biggest growth.
100%.
Okay, the next question was, how can I better manage my reaction to my feelings? This is probably going to trigger people because a lot of people are like, feelings are reactions, but yeah, this is for a whole nother podcast episode. But I think once you be able to recognize that your reactions are a deeper symbol of you needing to work on something in that area, then you start to find the gold. Because like I said, we are so resistant to acknowledging things we need to change, whether it's behaviors, emotions, reactions, but those are the things that are really going to change your life, because
that regarding to your reactions to your feelings, if you're reacting on emotion, most of the time you're not going to make the right decision.
Yes.
Okay, so if you can take a step back and manage how you react with those emotions, and you can react with logic, chances are you'll probably get a better outcome.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we spoke about this when we did it. Nothing good ever comes from the reaction of anger.
No.
Never. So yeah, it's just a valuable lesson that we've been diving into and trying to put into action in our lives. And I think if everyone could do this in the world, the world would be a much more peaceful place. Yeah. Okay, the next question was, in what ways will I take better care of myself in 2022? I think we all forget that we need to fill our own cup before we can fill anyone else's.
Yeah.
There's such a misconception that by doing all these self-care and self-love things, you're being selfish, but it's not. I mean, it's that saying, how can you fill your cup, fill others' cups if your cup isn't full? It just sums it up completely.
Yeah.
You will be a better person if you spend time taking better care of yourself, mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. Yeah. And therefore you'll be able to give more to other people.
Correct.
So it's such an important thing to think about, and to actually maybe set a daily routine that incorporates some kind of self-care practice. And it doesn't have to be a bubble bath or like a hike in the mountains. It can be like some like more challenging things. Like Josh has started doing meditation now because he struggles a lot with focus.
I've got a monkey mind.
Yeah.
So my mind is very active, and it's very hard for me to stay still in my own thoughts.
Yeah.
So the meditation is something that I'm uncomfortable doing, but I know it's going to benefit me.
Okay,
100%.
awesome. Then the next question was, what has been a barrier to me completing my goals, and how will I remove the barrier in 2022? So again, this is just looking at your weaknesses, your mistakes, your not so good things about yourself, because once you recognize those, all you can do is make them better, work on those things. And at the end of the day, you will be a better person for it.
Sure.
Okay, what limiting beliefs do I need to release? I think we'll do an episode on limiting beliefs.
Definitely. I've got many of them.
I think we all do, but it's such an important thing to really start to dig a little bit deeper into your limiting beliefs, because those are normally the number one things that hold you back and create this cycle of self-sabotage.
That's correct.
Okay. Then it was, what do I need to practice doing more and less of? I mean, that's quite a simple one. I like this question. What one boundary do I need to implement to improve my peace in 2022?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I think boundaries are so overlooked.
That's mine. Mine is basically to say no, stop people pleasing.
We can do an episode on boundaries as well. But you can see these are just really like incredible questions to review 2022, to see like your highs, your lows, your strengths, your weaknesses, what you could do less of, what you could do more of, and really gain a better perspective and vision of what you can do and what you want to do going forward to create a better and more abundant year. Okay, there were two more questions. What are you most proud of in 2021? You can do that. And then what habits, routines, beliefs no longer serve you? So they all kind of overlap and cross over each other. But I think, like we said, it's just an incredible exercise to do. To review yourself,
because once you sit down and write it down, things start coming to you like, oh yeah, this is right, this is how I feel, this is exactly what I should be doing, but if you don't do this, it just sits in your subconscious, and you're never actually going to understand what's going on with yourself.
Yeah. And if it's hard in the beginning, like when I started making Josh do all these goal setting, intention, full moon ceremonies, all this like woo-woo crap. And I would sit down and write like a whole page, and he'd just stare at me and be like, I don't know what to write. It's natural if you've never done something like this not to feel like you can't do it. But with everything, practice makes perfect.
I read 5 pages of this.
So proud. Then once you guys have done that, and if you are in a relationship, what we did next was we just, from this review, then moved on to setting goals for the year ahead. And we just broke it down. Both sound like a dance move. Into categories. And again, did this on an individual basis. The categories were spiritual, mental, work, love, wealth, social, physical, inspiration, and yeah, those were the categories. But I think the most like the coolest thing about this was sharing our goals with each other afterwards, and then realizing similar goals that we had, which have now become really exciting goals that we've set together as couples. Yes. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be something huge and monumental. The one thing we realized is that because we both love eating out, and we always say we should write a list of cool restaurants that we see, because when it comes to date night, we can never think of any restaurants. Yeah. So we're going to start writing a list of restaurants we want to go to. We also both had the meditation, so now we meditate together. It just makes it something that you guys can do together, and it keeps that accountability as well. Right. We want to do more adventure and outdoor activities, so one of our big goals is to climb Kilimanjaro and then K2.
Numbers legend.
But that's like created this excitement for us to actually get out more and do more hikes and adventure more, because that will lead to us eventually being able to achieve these big goals that we both have together.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that was one of the main reasons why we wanted to share it with you guys, because yes, this is an individual activity that you can do by yourself, but when you share it with your partner, it just helps create that like cheerleader effect, because you both can support and motivate and keep each other accountable to your individual goals. Correct. But then it's so much fun because you can start to see what you two can do together. Yeah. It gives you ideas. Correct. And it gives you cool things that you can now start setting to achieve together. I mean, we wanted to be more neat and tidy. So yesterday we spent the whole day cleaning out our kitchen, and we felt so good. And we created so many more routines that we want to bring in to maintain that's like made such a difference in one day. So it really is just an incredible way to find aligned goals that
to find new things that your partner and you can do together. It's only going to benefit you.
Yeah, it helps you grow together. 100%. It helps you to spend more time together, and it helps you to get excited together. Because I think,
and it's not just time together. Like when you listen, we do like sitting on the couch and watching on Netflix, but it takes that. It doesn't just involve that anymore. It's actually spending time together where we are working on businesses, or working on our fitness, or working on something that we're going to go travel to, or something that's actually going to add value to our life.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a huge difference between spending time with each other, and where you're just lazing around, scrolling through your phone, watching Netflix.
You're not present together.
There's no communication there. There's no bonding. There's no growth together.
Correct, yeah.
And then doing stuff like this, where we are actually getting excited about things. We're pushing each other. We setting new goals and routines and ideas together. So we thought we'd just share this with you guys, because we found it so, what's the word?
I don't know, I found it like I almost felt like light after I wrote everything out. Like I was like, I feel good.
It just clarifies everything you want for yourself and for your relationship. Perfect. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We hope that you do this activity and find some value in it.
And where did you find these questions, in case people want to know?
Oh, I'll put them on our Instagram page. Put them on Instagram. But yeah, if you guys do have any feedback from this episode, you can always comment on our Instagram or email us, or if you're watching on YouTube, comment underneath the video. We love you lots, and we'll catch you next week.
Check you later.